just nervous that it's gonna blow my foot off. Rather have my foot blown off and be able to keep training than, you know, wait till I have enough money to buy a similar pistol and stop training until then. So what's up, guys? This is the first video of a series I'm gonna be doing where I do like a daily breakdown of what I'm doing for all of my firearms training. I kind of want these videos to be more like raw and uncut. So it's mainly just gonna be like, you know, me going to the range, you know, quickly explaining like what I'm gonna be doing, going over every drill, and then like what I'm doing in between drills, and then you know, just kind of like wrap it all up with you know, like a review of the training. The goal here is that like there's a competition at the end of this. So like right now, you know, in all my videos I've been saying like, oh yeah, I'm gonna sign up for competitions, and then we're gonna go over like what I'm doing to train for those competitions. So you know, I got online yesterday to go and look at what competitions are happening local, and there's actually a USPSA tournament happening this weekend here local to me. So I signed up for it. You know, I've never competed in USPSA before. This will be the first time I've done anything like this. I've only got now, what is it, Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays. I got like 3 days to prepare for it. And then majority of those days, I'm not actually going to be able to go and live fire at the range. This is probably the last time I'll be able to live fire before the actual day of the tournament or competition, whatever you want to call it. And so, couple things I'm going to be focusing on today is like I'm going to be doing some movement drills, and then also some like throttle control drills where, like, you know, if I'm shooting up close, how fast the pace is versus when I start going back, you know, to like 15, 20, 25 meters, like maybe thinking a little bit more about my sight picture and my trigger squeeze, maybe just a little. I'm not a big trigger squeeze guy. So yeah, let me explain kind of what the drills I'm going to be doing today out here in the back, and then we're just going to catch footage of, like, you know, me doing these drills, so you guys can see kind of what my training looks like and how I kind of structure this in a way that I think is helpful. All right, guys, so we're here at Dog Bone Range, out here on the ranch, and real quick, I'm just going to tell you guys what drills we're going to be doing today. And then we'll just jump into it, and you guys can kind of get the raw idea and raw footage of what that looks like. So I usually like to start off my training with some sort of warm-up, and then I always incorporate dry fire while I'm here at the range. So, you know, I might run a drill 1 or 2 times live fire, but before that, I'm usually going to dry fire it a few times. And then in between reps, I also like to dry fire. I really believe that like live fire is where you identify your weaknesses, and that it's more or less like a 1 rep max. You know, I don't think you need to go to the range all that often and do live fire in order to progress, especially because it just costs a lot of money to do that too. If you treat it more like a 1 rep max, where, you know, it's something that you do every now and again to gauge where you're truly at, it can kind of guide and lead your dry fire training, which is where you actually build on and progress in your shooting, in my opinion. Obviously, like, if you can afford the ammo, then shooting live fire is not going to hurt you. But if you just come to the range and you're just blowing rounds down range all day, you're not actually going to get better. You have to be like mentally engaged. You have to structure your training. You should have a similar plan that you would have, you know, if you were going to the gym and trying to build muscle. Like, if you just go and do a full body exercise every day, you're probably not going to see like significant growth in one set of muscle groups over the other. So today we've got a warm-up that we're doing. It's actually a warm-up that was made by X-Ray Alpha. If you guys follow his account, he's got some really good pistol shooting stuff. Most of the drills that I do, though, and the way I structure my training is actually more based around like Ben Stoker and Joel Park. I've read a couple of their books, and it like totally changed my view and idea of how firearms training should look, how just shooting a gun in general should look. Even after, you know, being in the military for 7 years, once I read their books, it was almost like my shooting increased immediately tenfold. And so I highly recommend looking at their stuff, because that's pretty much where I grab everything that I'm doing here. So we're starting with a X-Ray Alpha warm-up drill. I think it's called his like 10 hit factor drill. Basically, you're shooting from the 20 meter, the 15 meter, the 10 meter, and the 5 meter. It's 5 rounds, and I think the goal is that you have less than a 10 hit factor. I'm still learning how this whole hit factor stuff works, so you guys are going to just have to bear with me today. Then the next warm-up drill I like to do is doubles. And I like this drill because it just kind of gives me a baseline understanding for like where I'm at in the moment right there in terms of like my recoil control and my grip. Then we're going to be doing a drill called the distance change-up drill. Then we're going to be doing another drill by X-Ray Alpha, and then we're going to finish with like a mock stage drill. That's going to include, engaging multiple targets and then moving from one position to another, because that's not really something that I have a ton of experience on. Is this like, USPSA style of shooting where you're, moving from position to position. You have certain areas you can shoot from, certain areas you can't shoot from. We're also going to be changing up the targets a little bit to fit that like USPSA style where it's like the tuxedo targets, just like the head box and a couple other things today, just to kind of mix it up and prepare ourselves for what we're going to experience on Saturday. In terms of Saturday, my goal with this is kind of just to get a baseline understanding of what these competitions feel like. And then next month when they do another tournament, that will be one where I'm maybe trying to be a little bit more competitive. My goal to this one is like, let's just be safe, let's finish it, and let's kind of see where we're at when maybe we're not trying to push the pace as much. And so that the next one we can do a lot of practice and training, maybe have an idea of some of our weaknesses and really push the pace, a month out. One thing real quick that I'll just talk to you guys about, because I know there's going to be questions about this, is like what pistol I'm using or like what my setup is. So real quick, gun is clear. Unfortunately, what I'm using is P320 X5 Legion. The only thing that I have done to it is actually take the magwell off. Carry Optics, which is the division I'll be running in, you can't have a magwell. So I took the magwell off of it. Other than that, everything about this pistol is stock. I have a Leupold Delta Point Pro on the top, and then I have a Surefire X300 on the bottom. Yes, it is the wrong Surefire X300, but that's what I had laid around. So like all this crap that you see up in here is just stuff to make it fit a little more snug on the pistol. Obviously, super controversial pistol right now. I don't enjoy bringing this to the range. I don't enjoy having this holstered, aimed at my foot and leg, but it is the pistol that I have right now, so it's the pistol I'm going to shoot. The only thing that I've changed about my training, now that I have to shoot this pistol, or since all this stuff has been coming out, is I always got a cat tourniquet with me when I'm shooting this gun, because I'm just nervous that it's going to blow my foot off. But I'd rather have my foot blown off and be able to keep training than wait till I have enough money to buy a similar pistol and stop training until then. So other than that, let's get into it. All right, so this first drill is what I said before. This is just a good warm-up drill. It was made by X-Ray Alpha. If you look, I've got yellow rocks at the 20, the 15, the 10, and the 5. The goal is to shoot 5 rounds at each position. You then move to the next position, and the entire time you're tracking, your time. You're adding it as you move from each position, and then at the end of it, you'll add up, your hit factor score. I think the goal is to have 10 or more, 10 or less. I don't really know if you're looking for less or more in hit factor. I think it's more. I think. So we're looking to get 10 or more. One of the things that that's good about this drill is like the farther out you push from the target, the more you can kind of sense or see what's going on incorrectly with your pistol shooting in terms of your grip, trigger squeeze, your focus, whether it's focused on your dot or focused on the target. And so the nice thing about this drill is you start out far, and then as you push in, you can kind of pick up the pace a little bit and really see where you're at. So let's do it. I think I pushed the pace a little too fast there. So I'm going to write down my time, move on to the next one. 320. 267. Last one. Felt pretty good. That was 2.03. Let's go look at the target really quick. I want you guys to see kind of how I'm reading this. Okay, so technically for this drill, in terms of like how it's supposed to be done, any Charlies disqualify you from the time. I'm not gonna do that right now, because it's my first time doing this drill. But in terms of like how I think it should be, yeah, this should probably disqualify me. But yeah, because there are Charlies, like definitely not satisfied with the way this drill went. I think these first two Charlies were from that 20 meter. I wasn't getting a super good sight picture when I was pulling that trigger. And I think this one is from the 15. Other than that, I was in the A zone, but my group also wasn't crazy tight. My 5 yard felt really good. My 10 yard felt a little bit loose. So we're gonna do this drill again. I'm gonna pasty this target up. We're gonna do it one more time, try to get these all in. In terms of score, so my understanding, you add it all up. So we got 3 Charlies and the rest were alphas. So 17 alphas and 3 Charlies, which means the score was, after a little bit of math, our hit factor points or scale, whatever the frick you call this, ended up being like 8.08 or something like that. So definitely got to jump it up here. I think if we fix these Charlies, we'll be in the money. So let's try to slow down a little bit on that 20 meter. We'll pick up the pace on the other ones, and I think we'll get it. Just real quick, I want to mention, in between reps here, I'm doing dry reps as well. So I'm not just doing it, 3-4 times live. In between, I'm doing like 3 or 4 dry reps. And the purpose of this is not only to like get the mechanics of it down, but also to like really lock in where my focus is at. Like staring at that pasty, making sure I'm target focused, making sure that I'm not over gripping my dominant hand and that I'm gripping tight with my support hand. Like making sure that everything is dialed in so that when it comes time for the live rep, I have a true idea of like, if I'm applying all these things, this is where I'm at. So I can then say, okay, I need to work on blank and blank during dry fire throughout the week. So just a side note. All right, round 2. Okay, a little bit slower than my last one. That was a 4.27. .4 looks like all alphas. So I think I slowed that down maybe a little bit, but that felt like a pretty good pace, to be honest. 3.41. .8. Vision wasn't super dialed in there, to be honest. All right, let's really pick up the pace on this one. 2.3. I definitely could have gone faster. I think I might need to turn my dot up a little bit. I think it might be too low there. 2.31. All right, let's go look at the target real quick. So last one, we had 3 Charlies. I think we're in the same boat here, but I'm happy because these ones are closer. So we got Charlie here, Charlie here, Charlie here. These two are both touching the line, but I don't think they break the line, so we're not going to count them. Let's just see in terms of time if the score improved. But to be honest, I think it'll be pretty similar to what we just saw. After finishing up and doing all the math, I think our hit factor was like 7 something. So we did worse because the drill took us longer and we still had the same amount of Charlies. So I think we'll do it one more time just to kind of get an average here, and then we'll finish off with this drill and move on to the next. So after I just threw some pasters up on that target, I kind of noticed my rounds are trending low and to the right in terms of like where they're at in the paster, because the paster is what I'm aiming at. It's slightly above the center of the A zone right now. Part of that might be me anticipating the recoil a little bit. Could also be a little bit of me purposely driving the gun down on that like 10 yard and 5 yard as I'm like picking up the pace a little bit. Gonna try to fix that a little bit. I think I'm gonna keep the pace slow at the 20, but I think I can go a little bit faster at the 15, and then the 10 to 5 really push it to maybe pick up for the slower pace on the 20. That was a 3.67, but it felt good. So I said I was going to slow it down, but I think turning the brightness up on the dot actually made a pretty significant difference there. That was the fastest one from 20, so we will see if those are actually good shots. Okay, that was a 2.82. So again, that was the fastest. Part of it could be like turning up the dot. Another part of it could be it's just our third rep, so maybe we're getting more used to the drill. We're warming up a little bit. One of those felt like I threw it. That was a 2.54. So we are knocking off a lot of time. All right, final one. And just looking right here, we have one Charlie so far. First round, again, was slow. Definitely need to work on that. But once again, this is only a third rep of the day, so I'm not too disappointed. That was a 2.14. It's definitely gonna be our best one yet, just based on the fact that we only have one Charlie and we took, I think, a couple seconds off our time actually. So I'll show you guys here. So here is the one Charlie right here. And then as you can see, the rest alphas and a much, much tighter group compared to the other one. So I think a large part of that was actually just me turning up the dot a little bit. It was super low on my first 2 reps. So turning up the dot, just getting used to the drill. And yeah, let's add this up and see where we're at. All right, so after doing all the math, our total time was 11 seconds, 11.17 seconds. And then our hit factor score was 98. So then you divide your total time by the score, and that got me, it was like 8.77, I think. So our highest one yet, still below the points that we need to have by 1.3. And also the actual drill is, if you get a Charlie, it's just a DQ. You can't count the drill. So a couple things we need to tighten up, but you can see just 3 reps actually looking at what's going on, actually trying to make a change, and looks a lot better. So let's move on to the next drill. Next drill we're gonna be doing is doubles. This is a pretty popular drill. The idea behind doubles is essentially that you're shooting 2 rounds, like a controlled pair, but you're focusing on predictive shooting, which Ben Stoker basically explains as like, if you have a solid grip and a solid stance, that your first round you're firing when the dot is in the A zone, and the second round you're firing immediately after, just assuming that because your grip is good, your stance is good, your fundamentals are good, that the second round should go similar to where the first round goes. So it's basically a way of seeing like, okay, how good is my grip actually, because I'm not getting any sort of confirmation on my dot before I pull the second trigger. Obviously, this probably isn't like an engagement technique. Like, I want to have full accountability of my rounds if I was actually engaging in a real world scenario. But this is just a good way to gauge where my grip's at. So I like to do it as a warm up, one, just to see, for the day. And then I also like to do it at different distances sometimes. Today, we're just going to do 2 reps of it. I think that first warm up drill is actually really good. So we'll do 2 reps. I got 2 mags with 8 rounds. So it'll give us, 4 reps per mag. And, yeah, we'll go look at the target, see kind of what the target's telling us, and we'll move on from there. No time constraint. I'm not starting from the holster. I'm starting with my gun, fully presented. And yeah, we're just going to see where these rounds are going. Okay, so I like to go and look at them just in between, kind of see where we're at. Couple flyers here for sure. That's a flyer. That's a major flyer. We also got one here. Looks like we stacked a few there. And then, so this, honestly not a very good rep. I think what was going on though is my vision. I think I kind of got dot focused here. Just having the camera on and not really thinking about the drill, maybe more thinking about the camera. So the second rep, we're going to try to really focus. I also don't have a pasty. So like, I have a pasty on this target. I purposely didn't put a pasty on this one just because I wanted to get a little bit more practice staying target focused without the pasty, because when I go to compete, there's not going to be a pasty on it. So We're gonna do this one again, see where we're at. So if we're assuming it's a vision problem, that's what's like going on in my mind right now, is like really focusing on my vision. So let's see if we can get a change. So the splits there was a 0.21. This time we had 2 flyers down low, but I think everything else was a little bit better. We're kind of staying in this area, like this, and this was all from the first rep. So we had 2 down here. The first 2 rounds, I realized I was kind of getting focused on the dot, and I fixed that for the next one. So I think that's kind of where this was. So from 10 yards, not the greatest, but just for today, since we already did this other drill, I'm gonna say I'm happy with that. Usually though, I would do this drill a few more reps just to like kind of figure it out. Again, I was aiming right here on this rep, and so I'm still kind of trending to this like low and right area. Okay, let me just explain this distance change up drill really quick. All right, so this is actually where we'll be shooting from. We got the 2 yellow rocks down there to indicate we are 5 meters from these first 2 targets, and then that back target is 15 meters away. And if you look, it's a much harder target. So the white is like a no shoot, and then the cardboard A zone, or this head zone here, is where we're mainly going to be focusing all of our shooting on. So the reason this drill is pretty cool is because we not only have a change up in distance, introducing the 15-meter target, but we also have a transition. So the idea is that I'm going to do 2 rounds in the near 5-meter target, 2 rounds in the head zone to the far target, and then 2 rounds in this target to the left. So I'm thinking about like my transition and also like throttle control. You know, like what is it going to look like? How fast am I shooting the A zones here compared to how fast I'm going to shoot the head zone there, also at like an increased distance. Let's give this drill a try and try to get some information. Like every time we do a drill, we're trying to gain some sort of information to give us something to focus on during dry fire. So as I'm doing these drills, when I get done, I'm reading the target. I'm also taking notes on like, okay, at the end of this course of fire, this was what I was struggling with during the distance change-up drill. Like I was, you know, pushing my gun too far left or too far right. Like I was tensing my shoulders. I was over gripping my dominant hand that was pulling shots here or there. So that when I do this dry fire, I can try to clean that up so that the next time I do it live fire, I'm faster and more accurate. So the goal here is like a 5-second part time. That was dry, is obviously a lot faster than 5, so I might change the dry fire part time a little bit, but the live fire goal is to do this in 5 seconds or under. It's pretty achievable, I think. Obviously, like this is my first time doing this drill, so I don't really know, but this is one of the drills from one of Ben Stoker's books, and this is based on like if you're trying to get to that B range or B classifier, which to me is like I think it's something that I can. It's an achievable goal for maybe my first bit of competing. So we got first live rep. Try to do this clean. Little bit of trigger freeze there. Let me just go look at the targets really quick. I think I threw one back here. So alphas. Yeah, I completely threw one and then missed up on like the forehead. Need to slow down. I think pick up the pace on these closer ones, slow down. That was a 4.65, but little bit of trigger freeze there, as well as just completely throwing the back ones. Not super target focused. So let's do that again. I want to do it again before I get a dry rep in, just to get maybe a better idea of where I'm actually at. Okay, that was 4.08. So 1 alpha, 1 Charlie, both alphas. And then here I had 1 alpha and then almost the exact same spot, just farther down. So I'm gonna pasty these up. I'm gonna dry fire this a little bit more, really focusing on getting like a good sight picture, good reactive shooting on the head there. I think me throwing that Charlie on the right target was just me starting that transition to the 15-meter target, and so I threw it to the left a little bit. All right, so a couple things I noticed during my dry fire reps. First and foremost, my transition from the 15-meter target to the left target is slow, and I'm getting sucked into the dot and following the dot the entire time. Second thing that I'm noticing is when I make that transition from the right target to the 15-meter target, I'm overshooting that, which means either one, my vision is off and I'm not staying focused on that orange pasty at the 15-meter, or two, I'm tensing my shoulders and my head and my arms up too much, and when I make that transition, I'm just overthrowing it instead of just relaxing, making my eyes go to the pasty first, then just bringing the sight to my eyes. So we're gonna rep this a few more times, dry fire, try to kind of work these things out, and then we'll go live again, see where we're at. I'm gonna get 2 more reps in here. A lot of times when I'm doing drills like this, I like to do 2, maybe even 3 reps, depending on what the round count is, live before I go dry, just so I can really see what the targets are telling me to work on when I go dry fire. Sometimes 1 rep might not tell the full story because either one, you picked up immediately on what you were doing wrong, or you had something happen like a bad reload that really sucked into your time, or like, you're staying focused on your dot, or your transition was weird, or you forgot how to do the drill. Like, there's a lot of different factors that can happen. So I just try to if it was a clean rep or a dirty rep, sometimes I want to do it 1 or 2 more times just so I can get a really good idea of like, okay, this is what's the reality on the target is telling me. All right, that was a 379. We have 2 alphas, and 1 alpha, and 1 that was absolutely missed. So if we're doing this in 379 and the goal is 5, obviously we need to slow down our pace on that 15 meters. So let's try to do that with the second rep and see if we can maybe keep it under 4 seconds. All right, that was 3.92. We got 2 alphas, and we have 1 alpha, and again, 1 that completely missed the target. So this is my first time shooting with a no shoot head zone target. So it's actually kind of exposing a pretty big weakness now, that when I'm shooting at distance and really dialing in tight in that like credit card A zone, that I really got to slow down the pace and get a good sight picture. So I'm gonna rep this one a couple more times. We'll do some more dry fire in between, and then maybe we'll get 4 more reps of this and see where we're at. But really where like the meat of this range time is in the dry fire. Like, we just got 4 reps doing this live. I'm gonna go and reload to get another 4 live reps. But in between all of these reps, I'm doing like 5 to 6 reps dry fire in order to like really maximize how much reps I'm getting in this. Because there's nothing that I'm doing live that I can't be doing dry. The only difference is like the recoil control. But in terms of mechanics and vision and like the things that actually matter and actually determine where the shot's going, nothing changes. So, all right, so we're going to get these next 4 live fire reps out of the way and really try to lock in a little bit. We might do some dry fire reps in between. I'm running out of time though here on the range and have a couple things I have to take care of back home. So we might go through these a little bit quicker. We're gonna cut out one of the drills I talked about, and we're just gonna do that last kind of like more competition match style drill, just so we can kind of start to figure out our movement a little bit and entry and exit from different positions. So let's get these reps out of the way. We'll go over each of them, and yeah, then we'll move on to the next thing. Okay, that was a 358. We have 2 alpha. That one's on the line though, pretty close. And here we have 1 alpha and then 1 just right above alpha on the line. So, so far our best rep yet, 358. Let's go again. I'm pretty satisfied with kind of slowing my shots down in the head zone a little bit. And that was one of the things I was focusing on dry fire, was like getting a really good sight picture for both trigger pulls. All right, here we go. Okay, 410 was a little bit slower, and the reason I threw these 2 is because I had no idea where my dot was. I thought that maybe my dot went out because I've had that happen before with this Leupold Delta Point, where like the pressure isn't, so weapon's clear. I don't even know if you guys will be able to see this, but essentially this locks in this pad right here, which is pushing the battery down. And sometimes I've had it happen to where the pressure isn't right and that battery kind of flickers on and off. I thought that's what happened here. It was actually just a really bad presentation on my part. So 2 Charlies, 2 Alphas, and here we have 2 Alphas. So that was our best rep so far with the little head box back there. So let's do this again. Just want to point this out real quick to you guys. Like, you can see structuring dry fire in between is really where like your meat and potatoes should be. Like, if I was just repping this, not only am I wasting ammo, but it's like, why? I can get in 10 reps dry fire faster than I can get in probably 3 reps live fire. So it's like, I'm just stacking on how many reps I'm able to do. It is the game changer for all forms of shooting is dry fire. Okay, 3-7, 2 Alpha, 2 Alpha. And here we have 1 Alpha, 1 miss. Same thing. I didn't see what the time was there. 2 Alpha, 2 Alpha. And then here we have, again, 1 Alpha and 1 miss. It was that first round that I shot, went right over the head. I saw it when it happened. So just like from looking at the targets right here, on my right-hand target, I am trending low and left, which usually indicates that I'm doing something with my dominant hand to push that gun down, whether that's over gripping, whether that's anticipating the recoil. I'm doing something with my dominant hand to push that down. I think also it could be that I'm taking that first shot and then knowing that once I crack that second shot off, I'm transitioning to the left to that 15-meter target. It could also be maybe I'm starting that transition a little bit early. On the far target, the main thing I'm noticing is I'm pulling my shots high. And I think the reason I'm doing that is to avoid that no shoot, is that I'm favoring a little bit higher. I think that's just mainly an accuracy thing, and then also just taking my time, like being okay with like shooting a little bit lower and trusting that like I'm not going to hit that no shoot as long as I'm like more patient with that shot. But lastly, on this right one, my shots are low right. And I think that's because I'm making that transition from right to left. And so as I'm coming out of that target, I'm just pulling those shots a little bit quicker, trying to chase that time. It could also be, you know, something that I'm doing with my grip, but I think it's more so just coming off and like pulling that trigger a little bit too fast instead of waiting. I mean, I'm happy with them because they're all alphas, but you know, the group is probably about that big, which like when I'm doing predictive shooting, am I really that mad about it? Maybe not, but at 5 meters, it should probably be a little bit tighter. I just set up like a little mock stage here. I'll explain it briefly. So kind of the goal here while we're doing this training is movement and coming in and out of different positions, or like, as they say in USPSA, like your entry and exit to these positions. Okay, so the way this one's gonna work is I'm gonna start right here in the middle of these 2 yellow stones. And when I start, I'm going to run to that set of stones right there and then engage these 2 targets with 2 rounds each in the A zone. Then I'm going to start moving to this set of yellow stones, and somewhere in that movement, I need to engage that far steel target with 2 rounds. Then once I get to that yellow stone, I'm then allowed to engage 2 rounds in the head box because I was liking kind of what that was exposing, and then 2 rounds in the A zones each here. Now these 2 far targets, you'll notice they're smaller. These are only C zone targets. This is just extra cardboard I had laying around. I did measure out the A zones, but they're probably not exact, so don't hate me for that. But we're gonna dry fire it a couple times. A couple things that they say to focus on, at least from what I've seen online, is that, you know, when you're moving from one position to another, and this is like where I'm gonna be engaging targets, I don't want to run here and then perform my draw and engage. You want to like be drawing your pistol so that by the time you get there, you're already presenting your weapon to the target and ready to shoot. A couple things I've heard for the moving and shooting. Some people like to crouch down low. Some people like to be nice and tall. So I'm going to be trying to kind of play around with that, see which one feels a little bit more natural. And then same thing here. My goal is to like have that gun presented by the time I get here. And I'm not really trying to cross this yellow stone too much. Like, it's okay if I'm standing like a foot outside of it, but my goal here is that I kind of want to be peeking around a barricade engaging these targets. One thing I'm noticing I'm doing is, like, after I do this engagement on the steel target, I'm like taking my support hand off. I don't know if that's good or bad. I feel like in longer movements it's good, but maybe a short movement like that I should cut it out. We'll see based on time. We'll try it both. So total time there was 9:47. We go and look at targets. 2 alpha, 2 alpha. We did hit both steel. I forgot to freaking tape this up, but I know we at least got 1 alpha there. I think we got 2, to be honest. 1 alpha, 1 Charlie. 1 alpha, 1 Charlie. I'm seeing my first round, I think, is this low round, low right. And then the second one's probably these farther low right rounds, just because I think as the drill goes on, I'm really driving that support hand down, trying to manage that recoil. I've noticed that, you know, with most of my drills, when the longer the drill goes, the more I over grip, and usually it tends to drive my rounds low. So we'll dry wrap it, I think maybe 1 or 2 more times. I got to get back to the house soon, and then we'll do it live, you know, maybe another 2-3 times. But yeah, I think that was a good drill. This time I think I might try to not break down my pistol, but keep my support hand on it and just move. Maybe I have to break it down now that I think about it, just because it might be weird if I'm running this way. I might break that 180-degree roll on accident. So I'm wondering if it's better for me to break it down just so I can keep that muzzle downrange. This is stuff that, like, as I start to learn USPSA a little bit more, maybe I can figure out, but just some thoughts going through my head, which is different from pretty much every other drill I've done recently, is that in this case, with this drill, as the drill goes on longer, my vision is actually improving in terms of like my eyes moving first, then my sights. Whereas in the past, it's been like the opposite. Like, I start the drill really good, and then as the drill goes on, I get a little bit more sucked into the dot. I'm noticing even with my dry fire, it's the opposite. Like, when I start the drill, I'm super focused on the movement, less focused on my vision. And then as it goes on, especially when I'm engaging like these last 3 targets, it's like really dialed in on my vision, which is kind of cool. But I need to fix it for the start of the drill. .933 alphas, alpha. That's 1 Charlie over there. I missed 1 on the steel. Gosh dang it, I forgot to freaking pasty this again, but I can already tell you we had 1 alpha in the exact same, almost the exact same spot. Like, I've got 3 rounds stacked up right here. Last time I only had 2, and then 1 here in the corner. So we did hit the head box both times, but we only got 1 alpha. Here, both alphas. That Charlie's from last time, and all alphas. So I'm going to pasty these up now. I think we'll get a couple more live reps of this in. Oh gosh. Gosh dang it. And then we'll, yeah, I gotta head back. So kind of ending the training short, but I think overall it was a good session compared to like what I've been doing. This is kind of mixing things up a little bit more challenging targets. I think I'm pretty comfortable with the movement aspect. That's not to say that my movement is like very good or where it should be. You know, one of the nice things about going to these tournaments is like there's a lot of guys there who are really good, and you not only get to watch them, but you can also kind of get advice from them. So I'm excited to go and you know, see how they're kind of approaching each round and how they would approach something like this. Like, this is pretty simple, I'm assuming, but I feel pretty comfortable. Woo, 1 close one there at the end. All right, let me just run through this really quick. Alphas, we hit both steel. 1 that kind of broke the line, but once again, both high. Alphas and alphas. Time was 9.78. I took a lot more time on those headshots. Really think I can improve on that though. I think that might be a big weak point that's been kind of called out here today's training. So all right, here we go. Second round. Let's try to get below 9 and then get both alphas in that head zone. Let's try it. Okay, not below 9. 9.87, but I think that was my cleanest run yet. All alphas, both steel, both alphas in the freaking head box. Had to really take time there. All alpha and 1 Charlie. Dang. Okay, so it wasn't a clean run. Kind of the main goal with live fire is to like figure out what those weaknesses are. And so like today, that style target, like I'm approaching it way too fast for like where I'm at. So either 1, I need to improve my accuracy, or 2, I just need to keep my pace a little bit slower. So, you know, maybe part of finding the answer to that is seeing what other people are, what their splits are on a target like this. Like how fast are they able to shoot it and engage it? And, you know, maybe even practicing specifically on targets like that, you know, whether that means like I start, you know, guns empty, whether that means I start like right here and then do just like I'm doing here where I come to an entry, like how fast is it taking me to get on target and get 2 rounds on there, and I just rep that over and over and over again in dry fire and live fire. Or maybe it's just like being comfortable shooting a little bit lower on a target like that, you know, because all my shots are trending high. Those last 2 shots were like the 2 lowest that I took, and they're like perfectly where I want them to be. So my targets here on the left, like I am still trending low, but I'm center, which I'm fine with. Steel was good, you know, still uncomfortable a little bit moving and shooting, but that's something that, you know, this is literally, it's not my first time doing it, but it's not something I practice that often. So it's just something I need to practice a little bit more often. And it's also not like a super easy target. Like that target is smaller than a C zone out there. And we're shooting it at about almost, that's in between 15 and 20, but trending closer to 20 because that far C zone out there to the right is at 15. So it's actually closer to about a 20-meter target. So it's not a crazy easy shot either. I'm pretty close center on this middle C zone, but the far one I am trending low and right just because I'm coming to that right transition and pulling the shots a little bit lower as I'm tightening that grip up like I have a bad habit of doing. So we found some areas to improve, got some good reps in. We were out here for, you know, a little over an hour, and yeah, gives me some things to work on, you know, for dry fire tonight while I'm working out, and then just, you know, these next couple days, you know, because like I said, this is probably my last live fire before this Saturday, just due to schedule. And so now I have some highlighted things I can work on throughout the week to really like feel prepared for the upcoming tournament this weekend. So